the first hack that I remember doing, so there was, before the internet, there were these things called bulletin board systems that you would call into with your computer, and then you'd access information. They had file libraries and rudimentary chat and kind of threaded stuff, similar to bulletin boards now that are on the web, but except you just basically call these systems. And there was a ton of hobbyists that ran them. Some companies ran them and stuff. So I ran a couple myself, and they're the way to kind of get files and knowledge, like the Anarchist Cookbook. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it was this book to taught you how to create bombs and do all this ID theft and all these different things. It was a print. I think it was in print, but then the online is kind of where it was disseminated. But it said pre-internet. These systems were linked through a thing called FidoNet for a while, where you could send electronic mail to different systems, but there were just these sort of local nodes, and so it was this cool little community, because a lot of times you'd dial into these BBSs and it would just be people that we'd have meetups at Denny's, smoke cigarettes and drink coffee all night type thing, but it was kind of the precursor to what we know as the internet. And the public library, the system ran one of these bulletin board systems, so you could see what books were checked out, and it had news and all types of things. But it was a multi-node system, meaning that it had multiple phone lines that you could dial into, and so it was a multi-user environment. A lot of times it's kind of a one-to-one thing. If you had a single node BBS, you could only one person could be on it at one time, and so you usually had a time limit that you could stay on there, and other users would try to call in, but you'd call and you'd get busy and you just know you had to call back later. But the public library had a bulletin board system that it was running, and I found was running some custom software, but I found out how to drop into an executable shell, which basically like a command prompt that would allow me to type in and do anything with the system that I wanted to. And so I had used it to set up an egg drop bot, which back then it was hard to find computers that were online all the time, because again, the whole thing when you call in the systems and stuff, then you get knocked off if somebody picked up the phone line type thing. So universities, obviously companies, they had these dedicated lines that were set up and have persistent connection to the internet. And so this was a way for me to have a machine that was online all the time. And internet relay chat is kind of like where a lot of hackers and stuff hung out, computer enthusiasts, period. But it's, think AOL chat rooms, but it was way more bare bones than that and predates it. But if you would have these channels that were assigned to different interests or groups or whatever. And the thing is if the last person left the channel, then the channel would shut down. And so you want to have computers that were in there at all times that would basically hold the channel for you, like while you were gone. And so the thing that I had set up on this library computer was basically a persistent connection to allow me to have a robot online all the time that was monitoring these channels. And that was cool. But then, the AOL was kind of this breeding ground for a lot of hackers too. There was a software that had come out called WinNuke, that it took advantage of. There's a port that's open on Windows systems even to this day, but it's used for file sharing, like if you're sharing the information between two computers. But there's a specialized out of band packet that you could send to port 139 on a system that was online. And if you send it this malformed packet, it would basically blue screen the computer, meaning that it would lock it up and you couldn't use it anymore. And so if you had someone's IP address, This is before consumer firewalls or, people usually plug their computer directly into the internet. There wasn't routers or anything. So anything that you're sending to that machine is like direct to that machine. So this WinNuke software, when it had come out, it just allowed you, if you knew somebody's IP address and they had a Windows machine, you could always knock them offline, and crash their entire computer, basically. And so that had kind of come out, and some other people on the bulletin boards that I was talking to, one of the co-sysops, I said, man, this tool is really neat. Like, I can't believe it works this way. And he's like, have you ever been on AOL? And I kind of dabbled on it, but hadn't really ever taken anything seriously. He's like, you got to check this out because, on there, people are just, you can knock people offline all the time. And it's like, again, like with the computer enthusiast crowd, it's like one thing, but then to do it to just completely normal people is another. And so that's where I got into America Online and doing the spamming and everything kind of sort of came out of this curiosity. But you could send malformed HTML in over instant message, and it would have the same effect, like where it would knock people's computers, or there were certain reserved directories in DOS, which was the operating system that things ran at the time. There's certain protected directories that if you tried to access files on those directories, it would knock people offline. And so you could play sounds on AOL, like you could say goodbye or welcome or the IM sound, and you just do it like a curly bracket S and then a directory of a sound. And then some of them were just built into AOL, but that using that formatting and then trying to access like ConCon or a parallel port or something would knock an entire room offline. So you could get into a chat room, 23 people are in there, and then you drop this sound file that's fake, and then it would just kick everybody off. And so these were it was just hijinks, like stupid stuff like that. But then
so was it just the thrill that caught your attention?
Oh yeah. I
mean, it doesn't seem like there's really a point to it other than getting a thrill out of it.
Yeah, it's just that, the internet's always been a source of acrimonious behavior in some senses, and flame wars, and people talking shit to each other and stuff. So the ability to just screw someone's computer up after you get into a fight with them over who was the best Power Ranger, which Ninja Turtle was your favorite or whatever, then you just knock them offline. That was the appeal, I think, of it, is that it's powerful. You're able to just kind of, just that it's your playground. Like, you own this stuff. So, people, and again, back then, it wasn't very common, your screen name, baby, like some people would pick screen names that would give away their birthday. They'd be like Bryce 1982 or whatever. And so you infer a little bit of information about some people, but a lot of times it was completely anonymous as far as you were concerned. And so it kind of became more of our focus to hack the system itself. And there were these private rooms that were on AOL that were just sort of in the back channels of, and it was all people that were, kind of interested in these types of things, or making programs that interfaced with AOL to do the spamming, or, these programs that would automate the punting. There was terms of service violation programs. I mean, these types of things work on Instagram and stuff today. Like, if you have, we used to call them network tosses, but if I have a ton of Instagram accounts and then I report you and I say, like, you've been harassing, me, and then if there's multiple people that are saying, like, you're harassing us, then what they'll do is they'll just take your account offline. There's automated systems that do this type of thing. So, we used to, submit reports that somebody's harassing my children, or whatever. And so you craft these custom mails, you'd send them from a bunch of different accounts, and then you'd kill people's accounts. So these are just kind of hassles, but this is all just figuring out how, to manipulate the system for our advantage. Mm-hmm. progressively, like what had happened is started to investigate the internals of AOL. So with these groups, we'd get together, and there was one of my partners, Glitch, that I lost touch with, but we got into hacking into assets like AOL, like internal assets, ones that only the employees could access. And we found kind of debug tools that allowed us to use the America Online interface the same way an employee would. Or we could access hidden forms, like sometimes instead of when they deprecated like a mail form or something like that, they might still be in the code and there might still be a way to interact with it. But as far as the front end is concerned and anyone else that was using this system, they're getting the normal one. But then we have this kind of alternative version that we could manipulate and use. And things back then too wasn't like a lot of people had AOL keywords instead of websites. And so, if you look at any kind of video from the late 90s, early 2000s, they'll say, see us on AOL keyword NFL or whatever. So instead of NFL.com being the place where a lot of people got their stuff, because the America Online had so many people on it, like you'd go to keyword NFL and that would be where you'd get all your information on football. So progressing through that, like it was fun to take those keywords over and if you could find the accounts that were basically view ruled to edit those keywords, then you could make it so that NFL keyword was whatever you wanted to put on it. And so we would edit keywords and deface keywords with these empowered accounts. And again, AOL just had most of the member base was just regular, everyday people type thing. So it was insanely easy, just because they're non-tech, to take advantage of a lot of kind of just misassumptions about how the technology really worked. That even though they would have like notices on instant messengers, like AOL staff will never ask for your username or password, that you craft like a specially, like a name that looked like it could be an employee, like staffeng 92345, and then say like, hey, this is AOL tech support. We need your username and password. Again, these attacks still persist today, but this was the sort of the proving grounds for how all this stuff worked. And so we got into actually breaking into AOL employees' accounts as well as what's called overhead accounts. These are ones that AOL, if you were advertising on AOL, they basically gave you a free account. And they had certain powers because they were able to edit keywords and stuff. But after targeting employee accounts, then we were able to pivot into the internal network of America Online, and they had some compensating controls. But me and this guy Carbox and Casey developed. I wrote the software for it, but it was a reverse tunnel. So I was saying there's not a lot of systems that were persistent on the internet at that time. So I had a university jump box, and what it would do is it would tunnel into AOL's internal network, and then it also had an outgoing connection that we could connect to, and then it would basically get us into the local area network of America Online. And so if I connected to that jump box, then I could log on to employee accounts without any secure ID, any type of two-factor authentication. And so from there, you were able to access CRIS, which was the customer relations information service, or I forgot exactly what it stood for. But from that panel, you could type in someone's screen name and it was like customer service. You could get your address, phone number, credit card, all the accounts, everything that had to do with those accounts.